Good evening, beautiful people. Wow, my screen is bright. Oh, well. Oh, look at that. And we're ready to look at that. We're ready to roll right now. Wasting no time at all. The timeless. Look at that background. Right on point.
Hey, how you doing? You know, I like to be on time. I like to be courteous, and I like to show up with the greatest gab of all.
That is the great. You are officially the greatest guest we have ever had.
Oh,
Look at that back. I'm waiting for Mean Gene to come out.
you know, I've been trying to get a GIF or something to where like a Mean Gene would walk out with a stick or something, but
Oh my
I'm not
gosh.
that I'm not that advanced yet.
That is great, man. I appreciate that. That means a lot. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay. It's nice to formally meet now. You know, over the interwebs, doing the fine stuff.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I used to I just let Vanessa handle all the bookings now because when we used to both do it, we double booked way too much. And it
Okay.
never worked out.
Yeah,
Uh
yeah. Well, you know, shout out to Pollo Del Mar for hooking me up
oh,
with y'all, and
yeah. Yeah.
I'm excited to get out and chat wrestling.
Now you're up in where? Northern California? Where are you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Richmond, San Francisco Bay Area.
Okay, cool. How do you know Pollo Del Mar?
Just through wrestling,
Just through wrestling.
actually.
Yeah.
There's some local shows that were happening in San Francisco that Pollo would help out with, and I got booked on one that was at it was in San Francisco. It was like a bear club, I guess, you
Okay.
know.
Yeah.
And so Pollo had a nice hand in booking a lot of the shows over there and stuff, and
Yeah.
their their lust for wrestling and the old school stuff is really what kind of got us together and started chatting because they had all this mid South knowledge, and I was like, "Whoa, where'd this come from?" You know?
Yeah, and you for people who've never seen you, and I'll be honest, I didn't know anything about you. Nothing.
Hmm.
And I've learned a lot. I'm gonna learn a lot more tonight. Watch some of your matches. You do have that old school feel, almost like, and I think it has a lot to do with the black glove you're wearing now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you give me that Barry Windham vibe from back in the day. Um, older as not age wise, but older as in genre, I guess is
Definitely, definitely.
what I'm trying to
And
say.
that's what tickles me. You know, I'm a pretty young guy. I'm only 30 years old,
Yeah.
but this the wrestling history is what trapped me when I was younger, and you know the stuff. The further back I went, the more it excited me and stuff. So late 70s, early 80s is really the most prime era for me, and that's the style that I really try to emulate, which isn't really around much anymore, you know.
No, it's a lost art, and art is definitely what it is. That is interesting. So you're younger. You're 30. You're younger than me. So I
Mhm.
go back to like, I mean, I literally I was born in '79, so I grew up with all of it. Late '80s, early '90s.
And
Uh,
where are you at?
I'm in New York, upstate New
Okay.
York,
So
and
you had
yeah,
the great territory of New
the
York.
great territory. But I can remember, uh, like, I can vividly remember going down to my video store, which we don't have. They don't exist anymore. But I
Right.
remember going down and renting those Coliseum videos. And I want to say WrestleMania 3 was the first one, but it could have been something else. But I can vividly remember grabbing the cassette and watching
Hmm.
it. Now that's what got you hooked. But then you kept going back. But how do you go back and watch things further back then? Because there was no YouTube, there was nothing.
Yeah.
So
And
how
that
did
was just starting to kind of come up when I was
yeah yeah
an early teenager, you know. So I had a little bit, and there was some stuff kind of being uploaded, you know. Same thing for me though. I feel like my generation was the last of the tape rental generation. Even
yeah
like
for
tape
sure
trading was already kind of over at that point, you know.
yeah
The internet was starting to get big, and so I would go get Coliseum videos and stuff like that too. And specifically, I remember WrestleMania 18
okay
being like the final VHS that the tape store like they didn't get that one. You know, they get
Yeah.
every one up until then, and that was the one that stopped it. And I was like, okay, well, how
Now
do I
what?
watch this now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to see all this other stuff. I'm learning about NWA and ECW, you know, and all these cool things. So I kind of like was starting to, scour the internet more for whatever, different tapes that I can go. There was a Japanese video store in town
Wow.
that I learned about that I would go get, like, B cut New Japan and All Japan shows and stuff like that. So at the cusp of it, it really was actually the WWE network, or actually the early
Yeah.
one,
The early stage.
the on demand,
Right.
24/7.
So you're going back in time. You're talking Mid-South. You're going NBA or NBA. Sorry, I'm watching NBA. I'm at NWA. What wrestlers were you drawn to? Who inspired you? Who influenced you?
Well, at first, it would be, Macho Man and Mr. Perfect, Shawn Michaels,
Yeah.
all these really early 90s WWF guys. And then as I slowly kind of got, more old school, Ric Flair, the Four Horsemen, Terry Funk really caught my eye, man.
Oh.
And just like, I would see stuff from later years in the Attitude Era and kind of his ECW run. But then as like the further back you go, you see that he kind of was like this clean cut NWA champion.
Him and Flair.
And then, it just kind of took the wavelength essentially. And, being that San Francisco is such a hotbed back in the day with Ray Stevens and Pat Patterson, I took a real liking to whatever I could find of Ray Stevens because it's very bare. So off the bat, Mr. Perfect, Terry Funk, Ray Stevens, what I can see, and that would kind of morph into like Nick Bockwinkel and stuff because I would find a lot of Nick Bockwinkel and Ray Stevens tag team. But it took me like 7, 8, 9 years to even be able to hammer down that Terry Funk is my favorite wrestler.
Right.
Like people would ask, who's your favorite wrestler?
Yeah.
And for me, I just love everything about wrestling. I love the characteristics of what's happening in the ring, the reactions of what's happening in the fans, the camera people, like it's all one thing. So I really just love everything that really just entitles fucking pro wrestling,
And that's Terry Funk. It is. That's exactly. He does embody everything that is great. And I remember those way back with him and Flair. I always remember, I think it was a pile driver on a table. That's what comes to mind.
Yeah, the I Quit match.
Yeah, the I Quit match. Table didn't break, for sure. It's just amazing. Just thinking about those videos just brings back so many memories. Because at that time, like kids today don't get it. Because at that time, if you're going to the video store renting SummerSlam 1988, that's 3 months after it's happened.
Yep.
It's 3 months after it's happened. So you may know who have won the matches, but you didn't see it. And you would still go watch it because it was that you were that invested. It was that entertaining.
And it was just the not really the lack of content, right? But just the amount of stuff that was put out back then wasn't as heavy.
Yeah.
You could find like at that point, 87 or 88, right? You could find an NWA tape also possibly, or a pay-per-view or something, but it's really kind of those two, you know what I mean? And unless you have friends that are in the tape trading, then you're getting like recorded episodes of maybe various territories and stuff. But just to the common, kid, you're going down to the local mom and pop shop, usually because Blockbusters didn't have a lot of wrestling tapes, at least around me.
Yeah.
You'd only get a few things. So for me, it was really like a WWF dominated thing because I would only rent all the big fours, right?
Yep.
SummerSlam, Survivor Series, WrestleMania, Royal Rumble. Yep. I'd get a King of Ring tape every now and again, but then they'd release compilations. So those super tapes were really like, all the vignettes they would do with the Bushwhacker. I was deathly afraid of the Undertaker as a young one.
Oh man, he was a zombie. He was the first zombie. He was a dead man.
Scared the crap out of me, man.
Oh,
wouldn't rent a tape if it had the Undertaker on it. So I would really like my selections were very thin.
Oh my goodness. Um, yeah, so you embody an old school feel. At least that's what I get when I see you. And you said that it's, well, we kind of both said it's a lost art these days. Like, I think there's maybe a select few people that can pull off,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't even say pull off. I say that embrace it and embody it. Why do you think that is in today's wrestling? Like, it's not widely accepted.
It's the evolution, honestly. You
Yeah.
know, just the mechanics of working old school is a far and few. I think it really it's kind of a lot of things. You know, nobody really cares anymore,
That's true.
which is kind of funny. Like no one really wants to hammer in on the believability. You know, you
You got to
can't.
suspend disbelief. Got to let yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, we'll do that a little bit, and because fans want to do that too. They want to. They know it's fake.
Yeah.
They knew it was fake back in 1987,
Right.
but they wanted to believe, and they wanted. So people still come, but then it's still on the performer to keep the credibility or the believability, you know. And we're not really getting that a lot of the time, and that kind of goes back to what I said. It's the evolution, where you know, only so many people have made it to the top.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And only so many of them people have came back down to help teach. And there's a good amount too, lots of quality schools. But then all those local job guys or those 40-mile vets, as we call them, you know, they've been hanging around those areas for all those times. And although they've never made it, they've wrestled for 15, 20 years. So they think that they deserve to open up a school or something, you know, and I don't fault them, you know, because there's been a lot of guys that I know that have been really local guys and haven't broke out or even done anything on a major level, but have a great mind for wrestling, right? But through those kind of things, because then the generation will teach a kid and then that kid will come and then they will teach more. So it's like through the years and the generations, a lot of things have gotten lost where it either becomes to psychology or just, you know, little things that are even believability when it comes to like shooting someone off the rope or, you know, X, Y, and Z, like stuff like that. It's more focused on spots, you know.
What school did you learn the running the ropes?
I initially broke in with just a local guy kind of around.
Okay.
And it was called Devil Mountain Wrestling, and the trainer was Alexis Derevko.
Okay.
And he'd done a few things kind of in and out through his career. He was kind of connected with the Samoans, and Buzz Sawyer was around, you know, so he had like some inklings and stuff. And he showed me around. And then I started to train with Roland Alexander at the All Pro Wrestling Boot Camp Garage until his untimely passing. And then I was training under Ezekiel Jackson for the last few years, basically kind of until we went into quarantine and the life and the world shut down.
And we'll talk about that because things definitely changed as far as, obviously we all know, you know, wrestling basically in front of nobody, but I also think there were some positives out of it. I think
100%.
UWN, I think NWA, I think the TV product that you're UWN television champion. And right, yeah, United Wrestling Network, UWN. I said that. You are still that champion, correct?
Hell yes.
That's awesome. And I just think like people like that, I know they started off continuing to have things, and then Marquez wanted to be extra safe, extra cautious. Good job out of him. You know, it went down.
Mm-hmm.
But there definitely was some positives that came out of the no fans. Did you wrestle in front of no fans?
Oh yeah. Okay. And I've done it in a few different ways.
Okay.
You know, because those primetime live tapings were live.
Yep.
So no fans, but the camera was live, you know. And,
right. So there's fans somewhere seeing you in real time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And then we've done tapings for the TV show, which were same thing, but cameras weren't live. So they could edit and do whatever they wanted to do.
Right. That UWN in Primetime Live, that's all Marquez. And this is the gist I get from it. It's all Marquez. Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, which where I first discovered a lot of people, especially David
Mm-hmm.
Marquez, and that branched out. I didn't realize how many championship wrestlings from. I didn't realize how
Yeah,
many there were.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's great. Go ahead.
It's really interesting how that kind of happened for Dave. You know,
Yeah,
Dave's been around for such a long time, and he's gained many enemies and helped produce a lot of talent. You know, and uh, I've seen a lot go through his fingers. You know, and even just from my time within the United Wrestling Network, you know, me and my former tag partner Buddy Royal were tag team there for many years
classic
before.
connection.
Yeah, we split. You know,
Yeah.
and so like I've really enjoyed what I've done there too because I'm truly a TV wrestler, and again it took a little bit of time to realize that because there really is two different styles, you know,
Yep.
and especially in today's generation, as to where back when TV wrestlers would do house shows and spot shows all around, but they would still work to get the TV to draw to those. You know, nowadays it's like you work TV, you work indie. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
I like to consider some indies kind of a hard cam generation because there's just one camera, as compared to when you're working on TV, you got six or seven, and you're working for all of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I really intensified myself down there at Hollywood and really kind of brought my style and my TV style, and I've seen it firsthand. Um, the way they teach you at Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, and even like we bring it up, I'm a co-host of the San Francisco version of the Championship Wrestling.
West Coast Wrestling.
Memphis, yeah. West Coast Pro Wrestling is another great company that's really on the up here. You know, I got a hand in it too with the owner, and we're really trying to help bring the new evolution, right? But we're trying to figure out, is it going to relate to TV, or is it going to be more of a live show experience, you know? For me though, I loved the pandemic personally
Okay.
because it gave me a chance to reset, and doing that at United Wrestling Network has been a big help, because now truthfully I really feel that when I get to go in front of an actual crowd again, my keys have been sharpened.
Ooh.
And I'm going to be able to manipulate their minds a lot more because I've been manipulating zero minds.
Right.
You know?
You've been doing it through that multiple camera angles. Yeah, for sure. And you're right. A lot of indie shows, and there's a lot of great ones that do have multiple cameras, but for the most part, it's one camera, like on the ring, the hard cam, and that's it. And it might go 3-something hours.
And you get the hard cam,
yeah.
But then the entrance music is playing, and there's no camera on the entrance or anything. And the music's playing, you feel the crowd looking at everywhere, and then here comes the wrestler, like slowly coming into the shot, you know? And
it's like a video game.
That's really how it was for a lot. And it was a lot of those CCW and Ring of Honor shows from the early 2000s. And then, they kind of got a roaming cam with it, and and that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to knock that at all, but it's just a different style, and it's really a style that's kind of evolved, and it's really in a class of its own in the modern generation.
Yeah, so interesting. I don't think I ever thought about it until we went through this. I mean, I knew there was TV tapings. I mean, I knew there were TV shows like the NWA, UW. I knew there was, but then I didn't realize how people can actually take advantage of it to, like you said, manipulate the millions and millions of fans.
And dude, these are the same setups that you're going to find at any major promotion.
Yeah.
For a fact, WWE has the same model.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just on a grander scale. For a fact, AEW has the same model, just on a bigger scale. And I've seen these with my own eyes,
right.
Yeah. It's incredible to think of it like that, because a lot of people really kind of brush it off because they hear that, you may not get the biggest thing, or like Dave Marquez exposure bucks, it's like, right. You got to eat crow sometimes. You got to play the game to get what you want. And I think that the lessons that you'll learn from working TV, especially through the United Wrestling Network, are invaluable.
Priceless. You mentioned AEW. You had a match on Dark, I think. Yeah, it was Dark.
Yeah. I had 2.
Oh, I was just gonna say, how did it come about? What was your biggest? What resonated the most from that experience?
Um, I can't. I just got booked through them.
Yeah.
I think one of the local promoters reached out for me, and QT Marshall gave me an email, uh, seeing if I wanted to come out and be an extra on Dark. Which 100%. Why
Yeah. Why
wouldn't you?
not? Right.
Especially during the pandemic, you know.
Yeah.
Um, I was on a big kick going into the pandemic. I had the tagline "Always be ready," right? And I fell off a little bit personally due to the quarantine.
Yeah.
You know, gyms closed in California.
Yeah.
I tried my best to stay on, but you know, I didn't go in as ready as I would have liked. But it was a great experience overall because it got to see the alternative, and
Right.
it really is a true alternative to what you'll see at WWE, and that's like the in-ring product, and even just in the backstage. You know,
Yeah. That's what I've
uh,
heard.
Tony Khan takes care of those guys. He makes sure that they're fed. You know, transportation is great. They feed them basically all day, even after the tapings. There's catering. You know,
Yeah.
so that's really cool. And then everyone was there was no eggshells to walk on. It's like what you hear with WWE. Um, and I don't know if WWE is different outside of being an extra because that's all I've really been there. You know,
Okay.
I'm sure if you're under a contract, you maybe have a little bit more of the eggshell kind of feel. Um, but you know, people were cool. I knew a good handful of guys at AEW, so I didn't feel like a total outcast as I do sometimes as I am at WWE. You know,
Yeah.
and just like the experience of getting to see a brand new company in its fruition. You
And
know,
they.
it's been around
Yeah.
for about a year or so,
But it's a nice
but it's
shiny new toy.
yo, yeah, it's still crafting. You know, I saw some kinks and stuff like that, but they're still figuring out what works for them in the middle of a worldwide pandemic too. Nonetheless, you know.
Oh, definitely. That was one of the only matches I didn't get to see in my prep because I was so busy today. My daughter had a softball game. I literally just came from her softball game down here, hit go live, and boom, there he is.
Yeah,
So I will go back and watch that though. But let's talk a little bit about your character and your UWN TV champ, which we already said for I think it's like almost 300 days now, maybe
yeah, it's been quite a
close
while.
to it. AP, are you still the APW worldwide internet champion?
Yes, I am. APW hasn't really done much of a show in the last year or so, but I am still
But you're
holding
still
on to
that
that title
champion.
proudly.
You'll be the last. If it goes down, you're the last one. Best champ to
I mean,
have.
hey, that's an illustrious belt too. You know, who's who has held that thing.
I also learned today that you are a person we had on this show when it first started. It was like maybe the second guest ever, Brian Zane,
Uh, oh
um,
yes,
former Wrestling with Regret champion, very
yes,
prestigious title as well.
that is
You're two
correct.
time,
I was the two-time, the
two time.
first ever as well.
Yeah. Oh, you were the first one.
First ever. That
First ever.
yeah. Me and Brian Zane go way back. He was
Yes, a manager.
one of my first managers. Yeah, and I'm his booby.
He is a great guy, great human being. You have Brian Zane as a manager. Oh gosh, the guy's name Price in
Howdy,
Howdy. Thank you,
howdy,
Howdy
Price.
Price. And I think this is one of my favorite parts of Timeless. My favorite part of your character is your manager because it does bring me back to a time that's not around anymore. We don't have these type of things. What's your thought on managers, their role, and how it enhances you as a persona in getting over?
Yeah. Howdy's great. You know,
Yeah, Howdy.
I've had an illustrious list of managers over the years, and I've molded and gelled with a lot of them. But standing next to Howdy Price is it's just like you know, as they said in the movie Big Daddy, it's like lamb and tuna fish. You know, um, so it's great, and you know, it kind of goes back to what we were saying before. Like everything I do is throwback.
Right.
And I think that's even at times hindered me in the world, honestly, because people will look at me like, oh, he doesn't work this work rate, you know, or he doesn't go all out and do these crazy banana spots and stuff like that. And when I'd rather really try to execute on throwing a punch that looks credible and working in heat and gimmicks, I mean, the glove has really been a whole thing for me, because when I started to do the character, initially what happened was I broke my arm. Right?
Okay.
And the gimmick is that the tendons in my arm healed, and the tendons healed super tight, which gave me an impeccable grip.
You're like rookie of the year.
Yeah. Yes.
So that's why
that's kind of where I got it,
Yeah.
And so that was what we all played with, because I broke the arm, I wore the cast for like a year, and then after that, we did some vignettes and stuff to where I finally debuted the glove, and it's been ever long since then, and people don't do that stuff.
No, that's a storyline.
Yeah, and I've got, my character has literally been 5+ years of just deep story, and it's rooted within breaking my arm, it's rooted within my tag, and it's rooted even within breaking up with my tag partner and having a feud on the way out. I've kept true to a lot of that, and I've really never, I've never truly turned babyface. I've always been a heel for some time, and it's because I've wanted to commit to my character and commit to staying true to professional wrestling. I'm not going to be a babyface here and 10 miles down the road go be a heel and do something completely different, and this is what excites me, so this is where I'm going to be. And stuff like loading the glove, and even just catching the claw, having the manager helps accentuate all that. It helps tell the story, it helps bring in that folklore of two people against one.
We got a lot of longtime viewers of this show that, if they're here now listening to you, they're going, this is everything I love. There's one guy loves old school wrestling, wishes it was more like it used to be. And if he's here now listening to it, he's having a ball. I want to talk about the Claw. We had the Von Erichs on here, Marshall and Ross, and they were telling us about the Claw, that some people have just the perfect head for the Claw. Like, it depends on your head. And they were telling us Filthy Tom Lawler has a perfect head for the Claw. Okay. Do you find that same experience, that some people have better heads than others?
Yeah, totally. 100%. It's something that I've never really
thought about.
Well, I've definitely thought about it.
Okay.
But I've never hey, John's got a great head for the Claw. It's just always been something where God, this guy's got kind of a weird, awkward head. And I'm in the ring thinking this too. Let me get it on, Oh, it's kind of awkward. Or, oh yeah, it fits perfectly on here, My old tag partner, Buddy Royal, had a great head to Claw, because once I'd get it in, he'd flail all over the place, but it would stick, because just, I don't know, something about his temples. It just allowed me to get a good grip on it,
So the cast, you were talking about your cast and how it led into the glove, with your tendons and all that. Did you ever wrestle with the cast?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I did it for many months.
It's like Bob Orton.
Actually. Yeah. And again, right, just another throwback to something that's not around anymore. It's always what I've been thinking about. I have a box of those casts, when I broke it, I didn't need an actual full hard cast.
Okay.
I had a soft cast, which was basically like a cast mold that I wrapped up in ace bandage.
Yeah.
So when I was finally done with them, I took 3 of them and I cut them up and made gimmicks with them. And then I wrapped them with something that looked like hard plaster to be able to work with it, And oh yeah, dude.
That's great.
Smoz guys with it and stuff. The referee would give me all the heat with it. They'd be checking it through the match. The people would, I hid something in it one time, and I brought it out, and I got the guy with it.
Just heel shit.
Oh, where is it? Yeah, dude, just all the shit that's gonna get you mad.
Yeah,
you're not gonna get mad if I do a fucking backflip off the top ropes.
No,
you're not. And plus, there's gonna be 7 other kids doing that.
You won't stand out.
I've always had the saying that I'm gonna get the same reaction with this punch than anything you do off the top rope. plain and simple. And I really try to keep that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm really trying my best to break out on this independent world. You know, I'm trying my best to get signed to a major company.
Yeah.
I'd be happy. And this is such a random thing, and not a lot of kids are going to say this, or adults, or anybody in the business probably. I would be happy to be a contracted carpenter. I would be more than happy to work on these wrestling shows every week, like Dolph Ziggler, or any of these guys. And who cares about losing?
Right.
I'm traveling the world. I'm going to these. I'm working for the top wrestling companies, and I'm helping these other guys. Because obviously, if they need to get in there with someone like me, like Arn Anderson back in the day, working Arn would help you get the rub.
Right.
And even if Arn's losing, he's still the one that made you look good.
That's right.
And people don't realize that nowadays, I think. People don't realize, like, wow, that kid's really good. Well, maybe the guy in the ring is the one that's helping him look that good because he's the one putting himself in place for these spots or these aerial maneuvers. As compared to if they weren't with someone like that, they would do all the same aerial maneuvers, but it wouldn't be in the right place. It wouldn't be at the right time, and it wouldn't be with any reason. It would just be like, okay, now it's time for the body slam, and I'm going to go up and do the thing.
Yeah.
But if you have no build up to it, it's literally just going to be like, okay, oh, cool. Oh, wow.
No struggle.
My opinion.
You said something in there that really it made me go, oh wow, that's interesting, because you said you get more out of your punch than somebody else doing a flip, and I thought to myself, he's right, because in today's wrestling, everybody is doing the flips. I hate even saying the word flips, but everyone's that style now, and your style actually stands out because not as many people are doing it.
Definitely.
Where it was maybe vice versa back in the day. Now it's coming back around.
And there is a lot more people doing the style. You know, I will credit that. I'm not the sole one here. You know, I've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
Me and Buddy were actually tagging when the Revival debuted on NXT. And we literally had the same look. They had the satin jackets. We had satin jackets. There was at one point where
one of them did have a glove. You're right.
Yeah. And dude, people were texting me like, "Are they shooting on you?" It's like, dude, I doubt it. You know, they don't know who I am. They might. Like, people watch Hollywood. You know what I mean? Right. Adam Pearce is a former wrestler on Hollywood, 1 degree of separation away from WWE producer.
Yep.
So eyes are on the product, but come on, man. They're not stealing. I hate when indie guys do that. They see something on AEW or WWE, like, they stole that from me. Like, no one stole that from you, okay? You have an idea, they have an idea, and it just happened to be the same idea.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, there was a time when everybody was wearing those satin jackets.
And that's the whole reason I came up with the gimmick.
Right? Exactly.
The whole reason. There's a whole era.
And now everything's clicking with me. So the classic connection with your tag team partner, Bud, who I can't remember his last name.
Yeah, no, Buddy Royal.
Buddy Royal. Was Brian Zane your guy's manager?
He was.
Okay.
He was, actually.
Because now I remember seeing stuff with Brian when I had Brian on and researching. I remember seeing the name Classic Connection.
Okay.
So you were in a tag team before you broke off and went singles. How do you feel being in that tag team for 5+ years shaped who you are as a singles guy now, and how all that came to be?
Yeah. Well, at the time, the New Japan expansion was kind of hitting America, you know?
Yeah.
And the LA dojo was starting up. So Bud wanted to do the tryout at the LA dojo. And I told him 100%, why not? You know, you're a stud. That's exactly the wrestling that they're looking for. Because Buddy was a great shooter, man.
Yeah.
We wrestled like twice, like while we were tag teaming, and one of them was at this kind of more, kind of like a UFC kind of style, like win-loss matter kind of thing. Very technical.
Okay.
And we had a straight grapple match, and oh my god, dude, he twisted me up like a like a shoelace, you know, because he was a great amateur wrestler. So he did that, and he actually ended up getting chosen as that first class of young lions
Nice.
in the New Japan dojo, which made him move into the house and sign a contract and stuff. So we had to split, and it was on the basis of we wanted to, you know.
Yeah.
And we had a whole thing where I turned on him at with Brian, and that's kind of how the YouTube title came about.
Classic heel shit. Heels doing heel shit.
Yeah, I hit him with the chair. You know, I mean, it was great, dude. This was I wish I can just bring that emotion back. We lost the match. We lost our tag titles. Me and Buddy are pushing each other in the ring. You know what I mean? Yeah. Stuff like that. Brian gets in front of us, goes, guys, chill out. It's okay. You're brothers. You know, you're brothers. I'm like, okay, all right, yeah. Brian gets in the middle of us, raises both of our hands, right? Bud's on this side, I'm on this side. And Brian puts him down and turns around to go to the back to like cheer to the fans. Yeah. And right as he puts our hand down, I reach across and just get Buddy, lays him out. And I'm standing there. I was like, we gotta let again, right? You gotta let moments resonate.
Soak it in.
Too many people, would hit and then look around. No, dude. I punched him and I just stood there. And then I just stood there and looked at him. And the crowd, like, silence for like 10 seconds. Silence. Pure, like pin drops. Oh, I felt it was such a good thing. And then they started booing. Oh no, how could you do this? What the? Brian brings in the chair. No, what are you doing? And again, just letting it all sit. I'm not waving the chair around. I'm not hitting it on anything. I just got the chair and my eyes were locked on Buddy. And he's selling up. And then whap with the chair and then dead silence again. And too many people would be afraid to get that.
Yeah.
Too many people nowadays, if they're working and they hear silence, they're like, oh, I got to do something to have them make some noise. Yeah. But really what it was is that we got the crowd and they were emotion at 100%, you know, and that was one of my proudest moments in my career for sure. But so, you know, so we broke up and then Brian presented the YouTube title and then it really kind of gave me the gusto that Bud was on his path and I needed to create a path for myself. And I really wanted to get back in with Hollywood and stuff because, you know, we got written off because the tag team was gone. So Bud was doing his thing. So we weren't on TV in Hollywood for a while. And that's when I really was like, okay, got to get in shape. Got to lose all this weight. Got to get ready for this title run that I may have. And really, you know, like I want to be a top dog in my territory and nationwide almost.
Wow. That just hearing you explain that turn just gives me goosebumps just hearing it. It just sounded great. Yeah.
There's a video of it on Brian Zane's YouTube. If you want to try to back search it.
Wrestling with Regret on YouTube. I think it's youtube.com/wrestling with regret. I should have worn one of his shirts tonight. I didn't think about it.
Dick Kick City.
Yeah, I do. That's my favorite. I got the WW one, the WWW that looks like NWO, but I definitely got Dick Kick City. And here's a funny story behind that because first of all, I can't wear it anymore around my kids because they can read now. But we were getting ready for the show. Now, Brian had already been on this show, and we were going to have Dave LaGreca from Busted Open on.
Oh, cool.
And
I love Busted Open.
Me too. Huge fan.
I listen almost every day. Every day that I can, I listen.
So I DM Brian and say, look, I'm trying to make a graphic for the show. And I want it to say putting you over, and I want it to say Dave LaGreca, whatever the date is, 9:00, whatever, a little graphic like that. And I said, I want to use the picture of the wrestler giving the guy the dick kick because I loved it. So I wanted dick kick, and then I just wanted to say putting you over. And I asked him, and he was all about it. He's like, use it. I made the graphic. It looked great. And LaGreca had to cancel because back then, before COVID, and Dave's been on the show since then. He's been on like 3 times. But since then, back then, he didn't know how to operate anything technology. He's like, can you call me on the phone? I'm like, no, Dave.
Yeah, he's a radio DJ, so a lot of this stuff was probably super new to him.
So back then, he didn't know anything, but we ended up ironing it out, and he's been on since then. Not Dave, Bully Ray on Busted Open a couple days ago said something. Also makes me think because you just mentioned something about heels. People are afraid for that silence. Bully said that he thinks heels today are maybe afraid to do what it. I know I'm probably not quoting him correctly, but people today are afraid to do what it takes to be a real, true, natural
to get
heel.
real, to get real heat.
Yeah,
you can't get real heat anymore. If you get real heat, let's say you punk a little kid and make them start crying. Even worse, let's say you punk the dad or the mom.
Yeah.
Then they're going to go to the company and they're going to be like, oh, well, I didn't feel comfortable at this show. Yeah. And then they're going to get online and start tweeting that blah, 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 blah. And it's going to make the company look bad and not in the way that you want heat, you know, because normally you want them to go there and be like, oh my God, I hate that guy. But exactly. And nowadays they're not going to pay for a ticket to come back.
That's the thing.
Back when they bought a ticket to see the guy get his ass kicked.
That's right.
I hate that Levi Shapiro. I'm going to see him get his ass kicked by Will Hobbs or something. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, that's not how it works anymore. And it sucks, man.
It does suck. Sucks. It does. Because I can specifically remember buying pay-per-views back in the day just to see my favorite wrestler punch the wrestler I hate in the face. Multiple times. Yeah. This guy right here, I probably paid money several times when he was a heel, someone just fucking knock his clock right off.
God, yeah, he was so good.
Yeah.
He was so good. Did you see the A&E documentary they did on him?
I have not Piper's yet. I watched half of Randy Savage's and got upset halfway through it, turned it off. I haven't seen Piper's yet.
But Randy Savage's was the worst one of the bunch, in my opinion.
Yeah, I turned it off halfway through. I got upset.
It was they say it was a hit piece.
That's the word on the street, I guess. Is kayfabe dead?
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
Yes, in some regards, and no in others.
All right.
Overall, if I can only give you one question or one answer, I'd say no. Because
go ahead.
It's evolved.
Yeah. I feel, in my opinion, kayfabe is as alive as I want it to be. So if I want it to be alive, then I can not look into things, or I can suspend my disbelief, which we mentioned earlier. I think that's gonna be the new question I ask people. Is kayfabe dead?
And it just depends, right? Because yes, everyone knows it's fake, right? So in that aspect, the kayfabe of knowing is wrestling real or fake, that's gone, right?
Yep.
But I think I'm trying to think of a good example, but it's like, it's like the Young Bucks and Jim Cornette, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Jim Cornette is kayfabe master, and he's keeping up this gag and making money off of all these people hating all these things that he says.
Everything that comes out of his mouth, they hate. Because why?
They hate.
Because he's Jim Cornette.
Just cause. And you can have a 4-hour podcast where he will drop 3.5 hours of solid gold pro wrestling nuggets. But if he says anything in those 15 seconds, null and void. Yeah. Null and void. And so, it's however it's perceived, because on the core, everything is exposed. But that doesn't mean that I still can't kayfabe you, or I still can't kayfabe the fans.
Oh, for sure.
But it'd be dumb. It'd be stupid of me to try to sit here and be heel Levi Shapiro and try to persuade you that that's really me in the modern era, because that's almost what's hindered me, I felt, because I tried that in the first few years of my career and people just thought I was an asshole. And it got me nowhere.
What you said, I listened to, I suck at this. I prepare for people and I listen to other podcasts they're on and try to get notes. And then I get a nice question or something that I got from a podcast, and I never remember the name of the podcast I got it from. and I feel bad because I'm not showing them some love. But you mentioned something in another podcast. You said the curse of Lou Thez. I don't know what that means.
I'm trying to remember now.
You were talking about
Thez.
okay. You were mentioning.
Sometimes I ramble, so sometimes I'll get on these things and I'll just go off like a shotgun.
All right.
And I just
well,
speak.
it came up when I don't know. There was talk about territories and wrestling territories back in the day, and you just threw it. You might have just been throwing it out there, and I'm like, the curse of Lou Thez. I never heard the curse of Lou Thez, and I literally type it down. What is the curse of Lou Thez? So who knows? Maybe you were just rambling.
I really think that might have been it. But I'm now you got me wondering where I was going with it.
I wish. See that I got to take better notes for myself because I don't know what podcast that was from, and
it might have been from the Indie Handshake. That was one that I did pretty recently. That was in my YouTube and video wise and stuff.
Wow.
Or NorCal Wrestling. I've been trying to do a lot more of these things too. So I get my face and my name and my thoughts out there.
You got some great thought. You got some phenomenal thoughts.
I've got a mountain of these things, man. And I talk to a lot of guys and I talk to wrestlers and they're like, "Wow, you've got a pretty good mind."
Yeah.
Like, why don't you do this or that? And like, it's tough for me to reach out to certain places. And I guess maybe that's just the old school factor. Like Bobby the Brain Heenan, before he passed, would tell people that want to get into the wrestling business that they should buy a gun and shoot themselves. And that was his advice.
Of course,
on getting into the wrestling business in the modern era.
Oh.
And so it's like a lot of what I really wanted it to be, I think it is. And that's probably for the better, right? Because wrestling business was really horrible back then.
Yeah.
But I feel like I was just kind of born a little too late. And I don't know if the wrestling business of today is the ideal, right? But I'm still here and I'm still trying to compete in it and I'm trying to make it my own. I'm trying to do what I want and to make me happy instead of just trying to follow the norm to gain Twitter clout, to gain something. I just want to be authentic.
I think authentic is the right word, and I think there is a calling for wrestlers like you with minds like yours. And I feel, I enjoy it. People like you, people like we talked about FTR earlier, Silas Young in Ring of Honor, same type of cat, there are definitely those for sure.
Yeah, I like Silas, and he's the last man in professional wrestling. Like I love that gimmick and everything, And there's a lot of people that have the ideals still that just know how to execute them in a different manner. I think Hunter Johnson, Delirious, is a really smart old school mind, but knows how to kind of translate that into a high spot era.
One of my children is coming down here. What do you need? Good night. Love you.
Good night. Good night.
You want to say good night to the guest? Sure. Say it louder. Say good night.
Good night.
Bye. Au revoir.
Wait till. But yeah, so I love the vibe I get from you. In preparing for you, hearing you talk, watching the matches I did. I love it. I love the fact that you're so passionate about this that you, like you said, you've been doing it for 5+ years and it comes through. It comes through the screen. Yeah. I hope people can.
I've wrestled for 11 years, and one of the real things that kind of got me early on was I was like, oh, I'm old school. But you'd see pictures of me, dude. I was wearing these baby blue pants, these hand-me-down boots, this huge bushy beard. Like none of it was coherent. And Mustafa Saeed is actually a local guy, and me and my old tag partner, we were working them and working him and his partner Sal Tomaselli in a tag match, and it'd come back and he's like, "Kid, none of that was old school." Like, you think you're old school? You know who Swede Hansen is? You know who Rip Hawk is? And I'm like, no, man, I have no idea who these guys are. And he's like, listen here, you want to be old school? Go ahead and watch any wrestling before January 1984. I said,
Okay.
okay, yeah. I go, why January 1984? And he's like, well, that's the month that Hulkamania started, and the whole business changed. And although the style didn't change much, from the 85 to 95, even I'd say, early 90s,
Yeah.
Things did change. The storytelling changed because it was more of the show for Vince rather than the storytelling in the ring, or even just the way that TV was done is a different way than TV was done for Vince in the 80s and beyond,
Yeah.
So that was a big thing that really jump-started me also into finding a lot of those old territory, 60s, 70s style wrestling. A big thing for me was torrents.
Yeah, BitTorrents. I heard you say that. Yeah.
BitTorrents. Yeah. And some illegal. I'll say that. I am a pirate of the internet. It is my millennial duty. But there's a few wrestling torrent websites that are it's basically tape trading of the modern generation.
Yes, that's exactly what it is too. Because there'd be they'd compile them all into a nice little zip folder.
Yeah, and this specific website, they have like a share ratio. So you can't just sign on and download a whole bunch of stuff and just leech it and run.
Yeah.
You had to share it back. So you would seed it and people would download it. So going through that, I found a lot of really cool stuff. And that's really when I kind of got introduced to like 70s All Japan.
Nice.
The Destroyer is phenomenal. One of my favorite wrestlers behind Terry Funk. And that was kind of when I researched a lot of that older stuff that I really got into it. And what is it? The 1975 or the 77 All Japan World Open was a tournament that I downloaded. It was a 4-disc set, and it was like 20 matches, right? And it's a who's who, man. It's like Dusty Rhodes, Dick Murdoch, Abdullah the Butcher, Harley Race, both the Funks, the Destroyer, Don Leo Jonathan, Killer Carl Cox, and many others, right? And a lot of those guys are probably people that not a lot of guys have heard about. Right. And a lot of those guys are what influenced the generation that I grew up watching, because that's the evolve that really happened. Was that, okay, I love Macho Man, I love Kurt Hennig, I love Shawn Michaels. Who inspired them? Exactly. Who inspired Ric Flair? Those are the guys that I need to learn now, and those are the guys that I almost want to help idolize, because everyone knows the people of the 90s and the modern day golden era, but nobody knows Sputnik Monroe. Nobody knows the Destroyer, and these are the guys that are instrumental at making wrestling what it is. Right. Sputnik Monroe is the wrestler that helped desegregate Memphis, before like Elvis and all that. Wow. It's a huge thing and a huge piece of history that I don't want to be washed underneath the rug. Yeah, right. To be lost, So that's really where a lot of the inspiration is coming from nowadays, is to help educate.
Yeah, I don't even know. You said Sputnik, I had no idea. So now I'm gonna go and I'm gonna learn about it. Phenomenal.
Oh yeah. Hell yeah.
Someone in the chat, the guy I was talking about earlier that I said would love you. He says the Crockett promotion never changed. And that could be true.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know the exact like intro, like when Crockett's were coming out, right? Because they took over. What was it, like Georgia, the Carolinas, and stuff like that. But through the whole advent of TV and stuff, they stayed solid with what their booking thing was, and really only when they sold it off to, what was it, Turner?
Yeah.
When they sold to Turner is when everything went to shit. They put Jim Cornette likes to refer. They put the pizza man in charge.
That what you said about Cornette is exact. Guy's been living the gimmick. He's been keeping it kayfabe for years.
I really want to meet him, right? So that I can just see how much of a gimmick it really is.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure it's really just him, you know. I mean, like, I'll probably catch tons of heat saying that I listen to the podcast, you know what I mean?
Right.
But it's true, man. Jim Cornette drops these magnificent golden nuggets of knowledge in his podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can just sit there and sift through all the other bullshit, you'll get these amazing psychology nuggets. Or like the other week, he literally laid out how to format an entire wrestling show from beginning to end, you know, and that's invaluable.
Yeah.
Like that's things that I could take and I could apply to my friends at West Coast Pro Wrestling. And now we're doing a television show.
Boom. Just like that.
Boom. Exactly.
Boom. Wow. I feel like we could go forever, but we will wrap it up. We'll leave the door open for you to come back. But first, I would like to know, what do you got coming up? Because we did talk about UWN. Do we got shows coming up? Are you going to be in the ring somewhere soon?
Yeah, actually, California is just starting to open up fully. I believe 5 days, the 15th. Our mandate is completely lifted.
Okay.
So I am going back down to Hollywood in the next week or two to do another round of tapings,
Nice.
which should be wonderful. And then Best of the West is a promotion out here based in the Central Valley, Fresno area. I'm booked on their first show back. It's called Only Slams. I feel that's a very appropriate name for a show coming out of the quarantine.
Only Slams. I like that.
Yeah, Best of the West Only Slams. That's June 26th down in Fresno. And then I've got some stuff in the works, but nothing's officially announced. I know that West Coast Pro Wrestling, we're working on a show. It's been announced. Haven't been announced for a match or anything yet. And then Championship Wrestling from Atlanta. Is another one of Dave's subsidiary territorial-based promotions that is actually, he told me that he's hoping that's going to be on the same level as Primetime Live.
Interesting.
And I just got word that it's going to be taped at Center Stage
Ooh.
in Atlanta. And so that's going to be cool. I've wrestled the Cow Palace twice.
Yep.
So getting to wrestle at Center Stage is going to be another one cross off the bucket list. But yeah, you know, I've got social media. I'm at Levi Shapiro across all social medias, you know, Instagram or Twitter. I've got a Twitch channel too.
Yep.
If people want to give me a follow. I do some pizza stuff. I'm a pizza aficionado.
Ooh.
So I do like at-home pizza tips, and I play some games or I watch wrestling and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was going to touch on your Twitch for sure. Yeah, we got that up.
Yeah.
The link.
Yeah. So, you know, mainly Instagram and Twitter are the best ways. I have a Facebook, but I don't really do a lot of wrestling stuff on there. It's kind of a little bit more personal.
Yeah. Nobody uses Facebook.
Yeah. At Levi Shapiro across the board. Come hang out with me, man, and let's talk some old school wrestling.
Oh, for sure. For sure. A couple things. One, since you said you're a pizza aficionado, pineapple on pizza.
I'll allow it.
You'll allow it.
I've done kiwi on pizza before.
I've heard that. I've heard people say that. Does the pineapple have to have ham or bacon?
That's a good one.
Or just pineapple?
You know, I would say no, but it would enhance it.
Okay. And I said I had two questions. I forgot. One was a pineapple pizza one, and I don't know. I don't remember the other one. But anyways, what we do at the end of every show, Levi, and you've been phenomenal. Like, I feel like we could go the whole time, but I want you to come back. I want us to leave a lot of stuff on the table. But what I do at the end of every show is I'm going to give you the mic. The floor is yours. You can put over anything you want. You can bury anything you want. You can say anything you want. I will not interrupt. The floor is yours.
Well, you know, I've wondered about this, and I've wondered how far I should take everything, but I just want I want everyone to love wrestling. I want everyone to enjoy every kind of wrestling that they can. Even if my style is old school classic, it can be death match, it can be technical, it can be comedy, it can be whatever you want. Just enjoy wrestling because the beautiful thing about today's era is that we have the accessibility to do whatever we want, and we have the freedom to do whatever we want. So everybody, if you want to do something, just make sure that you do it in the most effort that you can put into it, or else I will come and put the biggest carny claw on your head and crush your cranium.
Awesome. Great stuff.
I guess that's it.
Levi, phenomenal. You've been a pleasure to have on. We've thrown our forbidden door out, so you can come back anytime you want to talk anything you want. Old school wrestling, what you got coming up, pizza. I don't care. You can come back anytime. You've been. I mean, you could come as soon as you showed me that wallpaper behind you. You come back anytime you want with that.
Let's do it, brother.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Let me tell you something. Oh, I can't do Hogan impression with the headphones on. I don't know why. I just can't do it. But yeah, we'll do impressions. Next show we'll do the entire show with impressions. I only have Macho Man, but I don't know.
Gotta test it up. You see, my macho is pretty good, yeah.
Anyway,
a little bit going on, a lot of testing, okay?
Oh, great stuff. Well, Levi, you've been a pleasure. Have a wonderful night. Thanks for giving us your time tonight.
Yeah. Thanks for putting me over, guys. I appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Later.
Peace.